Welcome to Slow Flow Vinyasa. Let's come into child's pose when you are ready. So you can take the knees out wide, toes come to touch, sitting back onto the heels, stretch the arms out overhead, forehead pressing into the mat. You can wiggle around here, just kind of rolling the forehead from side to side, getting into the shoulders and the neck. Feeling the stretch in the low back and the hips as you move from side to side. And then walk the hands off to the right. Stretch long through that left side body. And then walk the hands to the left. Stretch long through that right side. And then landing back through center. As you arrive there, take a deep breath in and hold at the top. And exhale out the mouth. Just familiarizing yourself with how you're feeling in this moment after your day. Noticing any pain or discomfort, any stress or tension that lives in the body and or mind. And just getting curious about it, being with it, feeling it. Noticing if the mind is busy tonight, noticing how our energy feels. Maybe we feel low energy and scatterbrained, or maybe we feel light and the mind is quiet and we're focused already, or anywhere in between that spectrum. Just noticing where we're at. Not that there's a right or wrong answer to that question. Just giving ourselves that space to feel into what is. And then taking that left arm underneath you, coming into a gentle, twisted child's pose. You can come onto the left uh, side of the head. If that feels right, on your head, with the fingertips of the right hand and lifting through that right shoulder slightly. And we'll switch sides. Right arm underneath you, coming onto that right ear. Left fingertips pressing down into the ground, rolling yourself open to the left. And then come back to center, come onto the fingertips and lift through the palms, lift through the shoulders, roll the shoulder blades up and back. Just opening up the chest a little bit differently here and start to roll the head from side to side. Again, just feeling that stretch happening in the low back and the hips and the shoulders and the rib cage. And then walk the hands back towards the knees and then walk the hands off to the right. And then stretch that left hand further than the right, stretching even more in through that left side body. And then other side, walk the hands to the left, stretch that right arm longer than the left, leaning to the left of your mat towards that left hip. And then back through center, coming into tabletop position from here on the hands and knees. And tucking those toes and just start to rock forward and back, getting into the wrists, into the hands, into the ankles and feet. Forward and back a couple times. And then start to make circular motions with the hips, leaning forward to the right, back, and then to the left, forward, right, back, and left. And then the opposite direction. And then back through center. And then finding cat cow. Inhale, drop the belly, lift the chin, untuck the toes. And exhale, tuck the chin, lift the belly, pressing the mat away. And then finding your flow, going at your own pace with your own breath. Lingering any place that feels really good or extra needed. And taking a nice slow pace tonight. And then back to neutral. Planting that left hand in the center, right arm goes high, inhale. And then exhale, thread that arm through, but don't drop onto the shoulder just yet. Just reach underneath you. Inhale, reach back up. Exhale, reach under. Inhale, reach up. Reach under, exhale. One more, reach up. And exhale, thread that arm through, dropping onto that right shoulder. That right ear comes to the mat, left hand pressing down into the ground to help twist you open to the left. And press to rise back up, right arm high, inhale. Back to tabletop, exhale. Right hand plants in the center, left arm high, inhale. Exhale, thread it through, hovering. Inhale up. Exhale under. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, one more. And exhale, thread that through, dropping onto that left shoulder and ear. Right hand pressing into the mat, helping you to roll open to the right. And then press to rise back up, left arm high, inhale. Back to tabletop, exhale. And then take a cat-cow to neutralize shoulder, spine, and hips. And then back to neutral. Walking those hands away from the body as the forehead comes to the mat for puppy dog pose. The hips stay stacked over the knees here for a couple breaths. If we need, we can bend the elbows and widen the stance of the arms if the shoulders are tight here. Option to bring the hands together, palms pressed together, and then start to bend the elbows, bringing the prayer hands towards the back of the neck. Just gives a little bit deeper sensation through the upper spine, through the back of the heart. And slowly coming out of this, back into that tabletop position. And then straighten that right leg back behind you, toes press into the ground. And then lifting that right heel up and taking that knee to nose, squeezing out the air. Inhale, lengthens. So a little cat-cow movement as we do this. Exhale, knee to nose. Inhale, lengthens. Lift through the heel, flex the foot, and exhale, knee to nose. Now inhale, lengthens. Knee to right elbow. Inhale, lengthens. Exhale, right elbow. Inhale, lengthens. Knee to right elbow. And then lengthen that leg back out. Plant that foot to the ground. The heel spirals back to the left. The left foot comes behind you for a little extra support. Right arm goes high, supported side plank. You can gaze up towards that top hand, and then you can start to reach that right arm over the crown of the head. Get really long through that whole right side body. Really press down into the ground through that outer right foot. Send those hips forward. Pressing down into that left knee. And then release back into that tabletop position. Left leg long behind you, toes pressed into the ground. And then lifting that heel up, balancing here. Inhale, exhale, knee to nose. Inhale, lengthens. Exhale, knee to nose. Inhale, lengthens. Exhale, nose. Inhale, lengthens. Knee to left elbow. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, elbow. Inhale, lengthens. Knee to elbow. Inhale, lengthens. And then plant that foot to the ground behind you. And then right foot comes behind you as well for extra support. Left arm goes high. You can gaze up towards that top hand or down at the ground. And then left arm over the crown of the head, reaching long through that whole left side body. Keep pressing into the right hand and right knee and sending those hips forward. Grounding through that outer left heel. And then back into that tabletop position. And then tuck the toes, lift the hips for downward facing dog. Walking the feet out nice and slowly, bending the knees one at a time, shifting the weight from side to side, lingering any place that feels really good or extra needed. And so the hands are shoulder width apart, flat palms, wide fingers, pointer fingers towards 12 o'clock, rolling the weight towards the thumb and pointer finger side of the hand, that internal rotation. It's just a subtle press. And then the heels are hip width apart, reaching those heels down and back, lifting through the belly, lifting through the sit bones. Head is heavy, gazing back towards the knees, upper thighs. Nice long spine. Making your way to the top of your mat, walk or step. Halfway lift, press into those shins, heart forward, big breath in. Exhale, forward folds. Rise to stand, press and reach overhead, big breath in. And then forward fold, exhale. Halfway lift, inhale. Plant those hands, step the right leg back, runner's lunge. You can use blocks here for support if you have them. If not, just keeping the hands on the ground or even bringing the hands to the knee. And find some movement forward and back a couple times. And then walk the hands to the right. Come to the center of your mat. Toes are in. Halfway lift, inhale. And exhale, folds in half. Pressing into the outer feet. Inner arches are lifting. And then walk the hands back to the top of your mat. And then step to the top of your mat. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, folds. Rise to stand. Big breath in. Reach overhead. Exhale, forward folds. Halfway lift, inhale. And plant those hands and step the left leg back, runner's lunge. Again, grab your blocks if you've got them, or bring the hands to the knee or onto the ground. Find some movement forward and back. And then walk the hands to the left, come to the center of your mat. Toes are in and fold in between those legs. And walk those hands back to the top of your mat. And then step forward, halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, folds. Rise to stand, big breath in, reach overhead. Forward fold, exhale. Halfway lift, inhale. Plant those hands and step back to high plank. And then shift the weight forward, drop those knees or keep them lifted.
And then lower to the belly, chaturanga. Untuck those toes, lift the chest, inhale, low cobra. Exhale, lower. Inhale, medium cobra, a little bit more press. Exhale, lowers. Inhale, high cobra. Exhale, lowers. And then tuck the toes, lift the hips, downward facing dog. And lifting that right leg high, three-legged down dog. And taking that knee to nose and step it through between the hands, dropping that left knee to the ground, coming into a low lunge. Arms reach up overhead. And then drop that right arm down towards the ground, leaning to your right, side stretch. And then bringing that left elbow to the knee. You can either press into the knee or hover over the knee, whatever works best. Pressing those hands together, trying to stack those elbows on top of each other wherever we're at. And then untwist yourself, plant those hands to the ground, straighten those legs out. Use supports, the hands on the ground or on blocks. And that right heel pressing into the ground, toes flex up towards the ceiling. Keeping that left hip stacked over the left knee, reaching that right hip back, lengthening through that whole right hip flexor. And bringing support behind you, we're going to sit down behind us. So a block or a pillow or blanket, something underneath that right hip to support us sitting down. Or maybe you feel secure by sitting all the way down onto the ground. Just make sure that left calf is out from underneath you. We're not sitting directly on that left heel if possible. It's just on the outside of that left hip. We're sitting up nice and tall, and this might be where we stay. Otherwise, if you want a little bit more, you can start to lean forward and folding over that right leg. Half hero pose. Maybe you find yourself on support and wanting to come off of it for a couple breaths, going a little bit deeper if you're feeling called to do that. And then lean those hands back behind you. Press that left shin down into the ground here for a couple breaths. And start to lean off to the right. Take that left leg long out in front of you. Seated forward fold so the legs are out in front of you. Sit up nice and tall. Pull the flesh out from underneath you as you then fold forward gently. Imagining you're trying to touch the chin to the shins. Good. And then reverse tabletop. So planting those hands behind you, planting the feet in front of you, hip width apart, and then lift those hips. Maybe drop that head back between the shoulders. And then coming back to the ground, flip over into downward facing dog from here. And then other side, left leg high, inhale, three-legged down dog. And take that knee to nose and step it through between the hands, low lunge, right knee drops to the ground. You've got your blocks for support. And then eventually reaching those arms up overhead. And then side stretch, left arm down, right arm reaching to the left. And then bringing that right elbow to the knee, stacking those elbows on top of each other, palms pressed together, trying to reach the sternum towards the thumbs into that twisted low lunge. And release the hands to the ground. Start to straighten that front leg out, half splits. You've got your support underneath those hands, the hands on the ground. That right hip stacks over that right knee, left heel pressing into the ground, toes flexed up. We're reaching that left hip back and right hip forward. And then start to bring some support behind you. Start to sit back onto that left sit bone, onto a block or blanket. Roll that right calf out from underneath you. That right heel is just on the outside of that right hip. Sit up tall. You can stay right here or start to lean forward. Focusing on that breath, slow and deep. Maybe you want to explore coming off of that support, sitting all the way to the ground for a few breaths. And then start to lean back into the hands behind you. Here for a couple breaths. And then lean to the left as you take that right leg out in front of you for a seated forward fold. Pull the flesh out from underneath you, feel the sit bones ground, and then start to fold forward gently. And release. Bringing those feet together, knees wide, making a diamond shape with the legs for Supta Baddha Konasana, or Baddha Konasana, excuse me. If you have blocks or some sort of support and you want to place them underneath the knees, you're welcome to try that out. Sit up nice and tall here. And then maybe we start to lean forward, or you can stay seated nice and tall if that's enough stretch for you. And just kind of explore what kind of support you'd like in this position, in this pose, and then finding a place where you can find some stillness and breathe slow and deep. I like to imagine that I'm breathing in slow motion. How slowly, how deeply, how fully can you breathe in and out? Really challenging our lung capacity, building that lung capacity with every round of breath. And then at the same time, calming our nervous system, letting go of any stress or tension that lives in our system from our day, from our lives, from our busy lives, being human. Feeling the body melt into the position as you continue to slowly breathe and relax into this pose. And start to tuck the chin in towards the chest, rounding everything, trying to bring the forehead towards the feet. And release. Take those legs out wide, seated wide leg forward fold. Flexing those feet. You might enjoy being on your mat the long way so the heels can have some extra cushion underneath you. The heels pressing down into the ground, toes flexed up. You can stay right here. You can place the hands behind you for support, or you can bring the hands out in front of you. Start to walk those hands forward if you would like even more stretch. Maybe you want to come onto the forearms or onto a block onto the forearms. Just finding that place where you can drop into the stillness, that happy medium or happy middle ground, that Goldilocks position. A place where you can still breathe slowly and deeply and stay calm, but you're feeling a good stretch where it feels good for the most part, maybe a little discomfort. We're not going into pain. We're not chasing a bunch of sensation in our poses, but rather finding that middle ground. As we want to work with the nervous system, because when we work with the nervous system, we can, that's where we release the inflammation, the stress, the tension in the joints and the muscles, ligaments, all of the above throughout the entire body. And we can relax and find that calmness within, learning to deal with stress in a healthy way. Stress is inevitable. It's going to happen throughout our days and lives. Being human, there's lots of stress in our life, but it's our perspective around stress is what matters. If we perceive stress as a bad thing and that it's hurting us, it's harmful, then it's going to be that. But if we rewrite the story around stress being normal, it's part of life, and we have tools to deal with that stress in a healthy way, that's when we can shift into all is well. It's all good. I know how to release the stress and tension from my body and mind. This too shall pass. This is only temporary. And in a way, stress is good for us to a certain degree, right? Like lifting weights, for example, or in order to build muscle, you have to load the muscle up with uh, more tension, right? We're creating that intentional tension to build strength. So we're building strength in our joints and our muscles and our ligaments when we find that middle ground in the stretch and the pose. Good. And release. And we're going to come into fire log pose. So you might want something to sit onto, like a blanket or a block. Elevating the hips is always nice for this if we have just tight hips. Um, from here, we're going to take that right shin on the ground out in front of us. If we can get the shin parallel, great. If not, all good. We can bring that heel in closer to the body if that's easier for us. But we're eventually working to bring that left heel onto that right knee. And if that right heel is closer to the body, we can place a block or a blanket underneath that left knee, or we can even hold the left knee with the hands. But eventually working to bring that right shin parallel and then stacking those shins on top of each other, working towards that. Maybe you want to try sitting on something and then coming off of whatever you're sitting on. Just explore getting into this pose in different ways and seeing what works for you today. And you might just sit up nice and tall. You can stay right here, or you can play with leaning forward into the hands. This definitely does intensify that stretch, specifically in that left hip, but you might feel it in other places. Again, finding that middle ground where you can drop into the stillness. Both feet are flexed. Here for about a minute. So give yourself that spaciousness to just be slow, deep breaths. Anytime the mind wanders to sensation or thought, notice and then come back to the breath. Final breath here, deep breath in, deep breath out. And start to lean back into the hands, taking those feet hip width apart or a little bit wider, and then windshield wipe with the knees from side to side a couple times. And then we'll do the other side, that left shin on the ground. The heel can be close to the body or working towards that parallel position. And then taking that right heel on top of that left knee. or towards it, wherever you land. Find your placement here in this pose. Sit up tall. You can stay right here, or you can start to lean forward slowly, gently. You might find this side is a little bit different. That's pretty normal for people to have different sides, different flexibilities in our sides. Also, depending on what sports we played growing up and still play, or the common activities that we do that are one-sided in our everyday life. If we do a lot of driving, if we do sports that are one-sided like golf or soccer, those sorts of things can create that difference in the sides. It's not good or bad, just something to notice. This practice is all about balance, creating that balance on both sides, reminding us of the duality of life, the light and dark, the sun and the moon, the masculine, the feminine, the flow and the steadiness, the stillness. We need it both. We need it all to create that harmony. And last breath here, deep breath in, and deep breath out. And start to lean back into the hands. And then finding your back from here. And bringing those knees into the chest, forehead to the knees. And then dropping those knees to the right, gazing to your left, supine twist. An option to take a block underneath that right knee or in between the knees for support. Bringing the knees back through center. And then drop them to the left, gazing to your right. And bring those knees back through center. And then bring the feet together on the ground. Knees go wide, making a diamond shape with the legs. You can place blocks underneath the knees for support. You can also reach for opposite elbows over the crown of the head, or cactus arms, or just bringing the hands to the belly. Supta Baddha Konasana, reclined butterfly. And then focus on that deep belly breathing here. Feeling the rise and fall of the chest and belly as you breathe in and breathe out. Where can we relax even more? Noticing where we're holding on to tension or just clenching with the body. Seeing if we can intentionally let go. Starting with the face, that space between the eyebrows, the jaw, the throat, the shoulders, and the arms. Feeling the weight of the torso as it sinks into the ground. Feeling the heaviness of the knees as they sink open wide. Feel the gentle press of the feet together. Feel the tailbone and the low back pressing into the ground. Feel the back of the heart dropping down into the ground. Feeling the sensation of melting into the mat in this position. And then bringing the hands to the knees, bringing the knees back together, knees into the chest, forehead to the knees. And then reach for happy baby. Knees go wide. You can hold the back of the knees, or you can reach for the ankles or outer feet. You can roll from side to side if that feels good. And bringing the feet together, keeping the knees wide. Just hug those feet in towards the body. Again, if you want to roll from side to side. And then straighten those legs up towards the ceiling, holding the back of the legs. And flexing those feet. Supported Viparita Karani, legs up the wall. If you actually have a wall next to you, you're welcome to use it. Few more deep breaths here. And then bring those legs back to the ground, coming off the wall or releasing them from your hands. And then take a big bed stretch, arms and legs go long. Any last movements you want to take before your final resting pose, you're welcome to do that now. And then when you feel ready, you can make your way into Shavasana. Legs out wide, arms by your side, palms facing up. Slight tuck of the chin in, eyes closed down. And taking a deep breath in and deep breath out. Maybe you want to cover the eyes with something to really help you ground yourself. Letting the mind wander, letting all of the practice that we did today integrate into our being, into our body and mind, receiving all of the benefits that we just did on the mat. Again, finding that balance between movement and stillness to create that harmony within. And starting to come back into your space, back into your body. Taking a few deep breaths, just enjoying the stillness a few moments longer, scanning the body head to toe, noticing how you're feeling. Just being gentle with yourself as you wake yourself up with little movement, moving slowly, intentionally waking yourself, eventually rolling onto your side when you feel complete there. And then you can press yourself up into a comfortable seat. Bringing the hands to heart center, palms pressed together. And gratitude for finding the balance on our mat and in our everyday life. Finding the balance of movement and stillness on and off the mat is so important, and it's a great reminder for us to practice. And gratitude for the health and healing ability of our bodies and minds. Gratitude for another day to practice, another day to be alive, to be of service to the greater good. And gratitude for this practice and everything that it teaches us on and off the mat, and for the teacher and student that lives within us. Sending you so much love and appreciation for joining me today. From my heart to yours, the soul in me honors and respects the soul in you. Namaste.